Hi, welcome to our Fitz webinar on wristlets, boutonnieres, and floral accessories. My name is Joyce Mason Monheim. And first of all, can all of you see me and hear me? Because if you can't, we have a problem. So we want to make sure that you can do that. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box. And Jamie will either pass that on to me or she'll take care of your problem if you have any. So hopefully it all works out today. We're going to show you different ways to create prom accessories done with Fitz products and flowers. You know, we've been wearing flowers for centuries, and it started back with some of the religious and non-religious ceremonies, from the ancient Greeks with the crowns of flowers and foliages to the Polynesian islands that created those strung garlands of flowers that created floral leis and then hair pieces. Today, flowers are worn for personal beauty of the wearer and then complementing the outfit that is being worn. The styles and tastes have changed over the years, but keeping up with the fashion trends. And the trends themselves lead to accent all different types of clothing and accentuating vanity points on all those articles of clothing. Flower accents can be placed on the waist, the ankle, the wrist, the hat, the hair, wherever you want to put it, actually, wherever you want to create a focal accent. Today's trends allow for that, those additional accents, and oftentimes we incorporate flowers along with jewels and beads, decorative wires, feathers, and lights. So trends come and go, but there's basic mechanics that I want to talk about today, and those are the essential things on making sure that the design is created correctly. When developing a design to wear, where do we start? And so there's many factors. First of all, that we have to ask the questions. What is the theme or the occasion? Is it for prom? Maybe it's for a wedding. Maybe it's for some other occasion that flowers are appropriate for. Sometimes fashion, we often ask what the dress looks like. So those trends in fashion are very vital in knowing what the trends are coming. And also color. Color influences all of our prom decisions and all of our wedding decisions because we focus on matching and coordinating those colors. Sometimes it's even the formality of the event that we have to ask about. Maybe it's the environment or the location of the event that will affect the outcome of the body flowers that we're going to create. The functionality also is important. How long are they going to wear it? Where are they going to wear it at? If it's going to prom, maybe you want to ask how long you're going to dance so that you know that your mechanics have to be totally sound. And that's where we're going to focus on today, is making sure that we have good structural design along with applying the principles and elements of design. So the first thing, where do you start? So the first thing you have to look at is really picking out your product. So you have a basic design that you want to create. What do you pick out to put into that? So you have to look at your principles of design of harmony and unity. Harmony being the combination of components all together in the composition that blend well together, whereas the unity is the overall appearance that creates with that. But when you're picking out the individual products, you need to look at the textures. And having textural balance is really, really important in making sure that you can see the emphasis that you're doing. If you have a sleek surface next to a fluffy surface, you can visually see the tactile appeal that it has. If you put all fluffies together, all you end up with are all fluffies. And so it doesn't individualize the components that you're putting into the design. So you have to think about the surface qualities of the products that you're using. Fragrance may be a factor, depending upon what type of products that they want. And if they're using the fragrant flowers or requesting those, like gardenias, stephanotis, things on that nature, you have to pay attention to whether or not that is an appropriate place for that, for them to wear, and whether they will enjoy that in the long run. On color, we talked a little bit about that. Color is an element of design that really makes an impact upon where it goes onto the dress and how we want to coordinate that with then our overall appeal. Color is emotional. And we know all our prom gals get really emotional about that color and making sure that it matches. And we don't want it to match. We want it to coordinate. We want it to make it fit to what we're doing. Size is another element of design that we have to pay attention to, the size of the products that we're using. If they want a protea, we just don't put a whole protea into a wristlet. We want to make sure we use pieces and parts that will give us that same emphasis. So it's looking at the size and proportion of the products. Proportion is the components within the design structure itself. So making sure that everything that we choose works out well for that. And then also the scale. So going on, what size is the gal? If we're going to put on a wristlet, what size is she that the wristlet fits, that the scale of the design itself to her is going to be appropriate that when she wears that. So that's vital. So the design that we're going to make today, I'm going to tip this down a little bit, is this particular wristlet. And as you can see, we've got a great look that we want. And there's a few things that I want to talk about before we get going and making this. And the first thing is that we have the fabulous flower bracelet. This is the ruby color, and I wanted to show you the bracelet itself. And of course, Fitz has such a great selection of bracelets, and it gives you such a variety of choices that you can use. And how do you decide on which ones to carry? You know, oftentimes it's easiest just to call your dress shops in your local area and ask them what colors are selling, so you know what color bracelets to pick out. Whether you want to go with something red, or whether it's tangerine, or whether it's aqua blue, or black, or coral, or all these choices are readily available to you. So looking at the colors of the bracelets and the types, in that prom buffet that you select, what you want to do is have some different price points. So find out what colors are selling in your area, and then just choose some different price points so that we can then decide on what you're going to carry and have choices for your prom gals if you choose. Now, when you start a design, one of the things you really have to pay attention to is how do we start first? You know, you chose your product that you're going to use. Now you have to look at what is your visual balance. Are you going to do something that's symmetrical, or are you going to do something that's asymmetrical? And sometimes we change our design halfway through because sometimes it's product driven that we have to do that. But most of the time, what we do is we have that visual in our mind, and we know. If we look at this particular design, this is a symmetrical design. That means that if I were to cut this in half, what would happen is that I have like images on both sides. It doesn't have to be exact, but it's just very similar. Now, if it was asymmetrical and we cut it in half, we would have different images on both sides. So we need to know which one you're going to choose. With this particular one, we are definitely doing a symmetrical design structure. The other thing that we want to look at also then is the form. What is our form going to be? Are we creating a circle? Are we creating a triangle? Are we creating a square? Here we have almost a rectangular design. So we're going to stay within those perimeters to create that form. So looking at the different products that we have in here, we have the alstroemeria, we have the roses, and we have filler flowers along with some great Fitz products. So let me show you some of these Fitz products that we're going to be using with this, and we'll start this design and start creating it. So with this, we have a bracelet. And this happens to be one of the Fitz bracelets. It's called Color Your World. It's a beaded bracelet. And it also has the ultimate disc clip that's attached to this. Now we've added this. It gives you a couple different options that you can do. You can wire and tape it, add to this. It also gives you a larger platform that you can design on, which is really kind of great. And it also has our design disc that's attached. So you have several different options. This could be removed if you want it to be, or you can enhance it by incorporating it into the design. And we're going to do that for you today. Some other items that are going into this particular corsage bracelet is that we're going to add our celebration accent spray. So there's 3 of those that we're going to be putting in. We have 6 glittered leaves that we're going to be using. A black flutters, which is a great Fitz product. And then, of course, some ribbon. I'm going to use black. So you can use whatever color palette that you want to choose and coordinate those so that they go together. Now, the fresh flowers that we're incorporating into this particular corsage are, we're going to be using alstroemeria. So I have 3 blooms of alstroemeria. And I like using alstroemeria, especially with gluing, because you can really get some great depth with these. They're a beautiful product that comes in so many different colors that you're able then to really pick up some wonderful designs. We have 2 spray roses. These happen to be beautiful little red roses. And then a little filler flower that I have is some wax flower that we're going to add to this. So the first step that we're going to do is talk a little bit about gluing. And gluing is vital because we're going to do lots of gluing into all of our corsages. And I want to make sure that you understand the rules of glue. If you notice, let's just come up just a little bit. I've made a little glue box, and this is just made out of the box that the glue came in. This is just cold adhesive. This is a great place to keep the little lid. And some of the rules, so some of the tricks that you can do is by taking a needle nose plier and just pinching that a little bit close will help keep it from coming out quite so quickly. And also I've used some Vaseline just around that, just to keep it from sticking quite so much. So we'll use that glue. But the rules that we have with the glue is absolutely you must put glue to glue. And secondly, you must glue to something porous. Now, metal and plastic, ceramic, all these different things, glass, are not porous. So we have to add something to that will make the glue stick to it. So if you follow those two rules by putting glue to glue and then gluing to something porous, you will be successful with that. So we're going to start, first of all, with our bracelet. And I'm going to use this ultimate disc clip for stability. So I'm going to fold in my little brackets. I'm just going to keep it on there. Now you can take your pliers and you can just make those nice and tight just to keep those on there. And it gives me a platform then. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my disc is nice and tight. And you want to do this to all of your bracelets, making sure that, and there's a couple different ways. This one is just to make sure you just untie the ribbon that holds it into place and pull it nice and tight. We're going to add additional ribbon to this, and that's also going to help secure it, but you want to make sure that that is really, really tight, because once you put weight on there, you don't want it to be flopping around. You want to make sure that that stability is there. And then I'm going to trim this off. Now, a couple different ways that you can add additional stability. Like I said, we're going to add the ribbon, and we'll add that into here in just a moment, and wrap that around, and that'll keep it stable. You could wrap this with waterproof tape right underneath. If I used a clear waterproof tape, I can wrap all the way around that for stability. You can use chenille stems. You can use many different things that will reattach this then to the bracelet, just to make sure that it's not going to move anywhere. We want to keep it stable. So my next step is just to add the ribbon to this. And like I said, we're just going to wrap it right around. And I'm going to go a couple different ways on this. So I'm going to tie it around this direction, from corner to corner, and tie it into a knot. And then I'm going to come back the other direction and do the same type of thing. I'm going under the bracelet to the area that's going to be next to their skin, which is just fine. It just adds another softness because of nice sheer ribbon. And I like using sheer ribbon with most personal flowers is because if it gets wet, because we do spray it with some type of an anti-transparent or water, if it gets wet, then it doesn't show water spots. So it's a nice selection of colors. So you can see from the inside that what we have is a crisscross, and that's what goes next to your wrist when you put that on. So we have it nice and tight and secure, and it's not going to come off of there. It's not going anywhere. So we don't have to worry about that. So the next step that I like to do is just come back and make a bow. And you can make your bow any direction that you want. Some people make bows from outside in, like I do. Some make it from inside out. So whatever works for you, go ahead and make your bow. And on your buffet line that you create for your bling buffet, for your prom gowns to select product, give them choices of different costly ribbons. You can use an inexpensive sheer. You can go to a more expensive with metallic and print and flocking and all different types of things. So give them the choice of ribbons that go with that color palette. So I'm going to use this and tie it in. And you can make a bow as big as you want it to be. If you like ribbon, make it with lots of ribbon. make sure you incorporate that into your cost of goods. So you know what the average size and how many loops you have in your bow. I'm going to come back and just trim these down. You want to cut this each and every way the same way each time. That gives us repetition in the design. So if you're going to cut it all at an angle, cut it all at an angle. If you're going to give it a fishtail, make sure you do that so that it's all done the same. Now the other thing that I like to do is when I lay this on the table, I have it so that my wrist is going across it. So I can see if I'm going to create a cascade coming off, that cascade will be coming towards me or away from me, one of the two. For this, we're creating our symmetrical design, so it's going to be across the top and make it all the same way. So from here, I want to add my leaves. And we've got our beautiful little glittered leaves that we're going to add into this. I'm going to trim these down just a little bit so they're not quite so long. And we're going to do 3 on each side. So what you want to do is come in with your glue, and you're going to add glue to our disc, to the ribbon, and in this area. And then I'm going to just put a little pile of glue on my little box here. I'm going to dip the end of my leaf into it. So I'm putting glue to glue. So I'm making sure that I've got that tucked right in there, glue to glue. Now, another trick that you can do if you don't want to dip like this is that you can stick this in because there is a lot of glue there. Stick it in, pull it out. They've got glue on both sides, and then tuck it in. So we're going to go with our second one. We're just going to do a collaring effect all the way around because we're doing a symmetrical design. So that means it's the same all the way around. A little bit of glue on here on this corner. Tuck it in underneath that ribbon. So I have 3 on this side. And coming back with it on the opposite side, just to put those in. And make sure you got a little bit of security there, and then it's going to tie right in. Now, with cold glue application, you have to make sure that sometimes you have to hold it into place to make sure it's going to stick. But that's good because once it dries, you have got a great adhesion, and it's going to do a great job for you. Because once you try to take these apart afterwards, it doesn't work very well. So we've tucked that in so you can see, I've got a little blue on my finger. Now we've just done a collaring all the way around. And we have this great look that's nice and symmetrical. We have a ribbon in the center, our beautiful leaves to the outside edge. So from here, what I'd like to do is the additional things that we have with our accessories. We have the accent sprays of celebration and the flowers. I'm going to add those later because I want those up on top. So what we'll do now is go in and add our alstroemeria. Put a little bit of glue there. And I'm also going to come into the center here and just add some glue to the middle of this. And if you let that, if it dries, it's fine, because once you add wet glue to dry glue, it sticks together, and you're able then to use that as a security factor. So I'm just going to come back with glue, and it's going to help, keep everything together, but it's also going to help me adhere the rest in. So we're going to take our alstroemeria. And when you're gluing in fresh flowers, the vital thing here is to make sure that you seal up this very end, because what that does is it keeps it from dehydrating as quickly. You always want to use an anti-transparent, and what I mean by that is like finishing touch, crowning glory. There's several out on the market. I've got Pristine, which is one product that I use, which works really well. So if you can see that, it's just a can. So whatever works for you, just test it and know what works for you. So we're using 3 alstroemeria, and you can see I've placed this one on one side. I'm going to add the other 2 to the opposite side. We're still having our symmetry, even though we're not quite using the same amount on each side, but we're going to have that similar on each side. So adding our next one in, making sure we have enough glue on it, nice and sealed. Tuck it in down to our very base, because we've got that glue right down all the way to the top of the leaves. So we've added our 3 Alstroemeria right in, and that's the easy part. It's just adding those right in, and they're such a fragile flower to begin with. This is a great way to add them in. We're coming back with our little spray roses. I'm going to trim those down just a little bit. We still have glue down in that very center, so we have glue to glue. And we're definitely gluing to something porous because we have our ribbon that is down into the very center. And I'm going to add our little spray rose right down inside. And I have a second one that we're going to add. And this really doesn't save us a lot of time, but what we're able to do is at the last minute add our fresh flowers, and it makes it a little bit more convenient for us, so that we're not there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning doing those hundreds of prom corsages and boutonnieres. So we can have the bases already created by what the consumer has picked out, and then just come back and add the flowers to this. So I'm going to come back with my little filler flower, and then we'll add the rest of our accents to it. And our little filler flower is our little wax flower, and we're just going to start tucking this in all the way around. There again, remember, we're making a symmetrical design. So with asymmetry, we have to make sure that it's even all the way around. And we have the glue in the center, so we don't have to worry about adding more glue into that. And like I mentioned before, if you're afraid that you don't have enough in there, if you put this on and then tuck it in where you want to place it and then pull it away, you know you have glue in both places. Count to 3 or 4 and then put it back in, and you know that you have made that connection with glue on glue. We have a little bit more wax flour that we're going to tuck in here. I'm just going to tuck in right into that part of the bow. I'm going to trim you just a little bit. There again, if you trim one thing and make it change, you have to do that to all of it. So make sure that you do that. All right, we're going to come back with our accents. And here we have the celebration accent. Since they like to get tangled up, here we go. I'm going to just shorten these down a little bit. Do the same type of thing that I did with the leaves, and just do a little hook. So that when it comes back out, if it gets tugged on, it has something to catch it so it doesn't come out. So I'm just going to add that into our very center, right into where the glue already is. And I want to add a little dimension to this. So you want to make them move around a little bit so that you've got some depth. And I think that's the hardest thing to add to personal flowers, is making sure that the depth is there. It's vital to have that. Oftentimes they come out being a little flat. So we want to make sure that we've got that dimension. Add those in. We're going to go to the other side now. And a little bit of our glue just right down into our ribbon. Gives us great adhesion. So we have our little bling added in. And then we want to soften this a little bit more with some feathers. And I'm just going to trim out on our flutters here some of the longer pieces. And we're going to use these and just tuck them in here in a minute. But I just want to take the length. This is a great way to be able to distribute it throughout the design instead of just having a big wad in there. Try using just a little piece of it here and there. That way you're able then to just really create some fun things when you're designing. I'm going to come with my flutters, my smallest piece of flutters. I'm going to tuck that right down into the middle between my roses, and I'm going to use my little rhinestones just to kind of bend them out. I'm going to just shorten them down a little bit too. tuck you in here in just a second. My glue is running everywhere, so I'm trying to control it a little bit. And the easiest way to get glue off your hands, I always have to laugh. It's like, well, how do you clean your hands with the glue? You go get a manicure, that helps that. But no, you can't do that every time. If you use a little bit of leaf shine, anything that has an oil base to it, will help you take that glue right off. So we're going to use the longer feathers to the outside edge. And just tucking them in so we get that distribution from one side to the other. Correct balance is that if you put it on one side, put it on the opposite side. And what that does is it gives you 4 balances in one placement. Just by putting that from here to here, what I've done is I've done physical balance, I've done textural balance, I've done visual. Simple placement from one side to the other. Add some feathers here. Go the opposite side. Feathers and glue are sometimes kind of tough. It sticks to your fingers. And then I've got one little piece that we're going to add in here. And just tucking it in. So adding the accents at the end helps then develop your depth in your design. So you can see that we've taken this from just a flatter level and keep building on top and keep building on top so that we get that dimension in our design. I think you can make that very easily. So just remember that you want to start with your form, your balance, whether it's symmetrical and asymmetrical, and then start developing your design right into the very center. I have some other ones that I wanted to show you. And I'm going to make a different kind for you now so you can see. But the fundamentals are always the same on all of them. So we're going to start with another bracelet. This is the Color Your World in purple. Same type of thing. I have some more of the celebration accent. We've got feathers everywhere. Accent sprays that we're going to use. And I wanted to start with some salal leaves. And I like using salal leaves because they hold up so well. And you can make the base structures very, very easily and very quickly just by using fresh foliages. And there's some foliages that hold up better than others. Salal is one that holds up really, really well. And you can cut this into any shape. I've oftentimes, when I wanted to prep with ivy, and I like the looks of ivy, but it doesn't always hold very well. So I often will cut salal into an ivy shape and then use that instead. So it gives that overall appearance of being with ivy. Now in the last one, we used the permanent botanical glittered leaves in this that you can see. And you can do that, absolutely. But I also like using a little bit of fresh to add to this. But I want to cut these down. And so I've got them all lined up together. And I'm just going to use my scissors and cut them all the same size so that I have that uniformity throughout the design. So making sure I'm going to get rid of all the stems also. So I have them all the same size now. I don't have to worry about one being bigger than the other one. And you can use salal. It's an inexpensive product to use, but it gives you a great base structure. So we're going to add salal. I also have some, of course, the purple ribbon that we're going to add to this. I have some orchids that we're going to add. Put those back here a little bit so you can see them. And I wanted to add just a little bit of color. I have some colacho that I love using for color impact in this. And the tiny little leaves. So let's start with this base structure again. And of course, I'm going to use these as my holding pattern. Now, something else that you can do instead of doing that, let's go to, and you don't have to tighten this up if you don't want to, because I am going to use that ribbon. But one way that if you want to make sure your rhinestones stay in, and here we have a celebration. Let's separate these out a little bit. So I've got some dimension. You can put these across. And allow a little bit of length for manipulation. Let me trim this down. I'm just going to go underneath my disc and attach that side down. And do the same with the other side. If you wanted to, you could put a piece of U-glue down, and that would help just stabilize that if you wanted to. U-glue is a great stabilizer. We don't want it to slide out, which we don't want this to slide out. We're going to go to the opposite side. Flip you over. And what this does is gives us some more stability. And then your rhinestones, if they get caught, they are never, ever coming out. So then we take the brackets and bend them down. And by doing that, it holds them right into place. So we're going to take this other side and holding them down. And we can just manipulate these. We can bend them up. And then we'll come back with our ribbon then to hold this all in place. So this is another way that you can add stability to your rhinestones because they'll never ever come out of there. So coming in with our ribbon, tie this across the top for that stability. We leave the tape in that little rosette. It's ribbon and it is porous, which is something that we want to glue to, so make sure that that stays in there. Coming across the other side, just want to make sure it's going to stay put.
Joyce?
Yes.
We have a question.
Sure.
I'm actually going to unmute Miss Kathy to ask you because one of the words I cannot pronounce. So hold on one moment.
Sure.
Kathy, are you there? Kathy?
She's probably muted.
I unmuted her.
Oh, okay. That's all right. You can just read me the question if you want. I can help you with the word.
Okay, it says, how long will clancho hold?
Oh, yeah, that's right. You spelled it. You sounded it out right. Calancho. How long will it hold? It holds just as long as fresh flowers will. It holds up really well. It's a succulent, so it does a great job, and I love it using it in a lot of different body flowers and wedding designs because it does such a great job, and with such a vibrant color. One of the trends that we're seeing today, of course, is those neon colors, and that's a great way to get that, and it holds really, really well.
How far in advance can you put it in your corsage?
I wouldn't put it probably any more than 2 days ahead of time. Of course, then using an anti-transparent on it. I would actually, most of the time, I would add it when I start adding my fresh flowers. So whatever you're putting in, it would work well with that. And most fresh flowers, you don't want to add that any sooner than probably 2 days ahead of time. Now, with like our salal, you could do that a week ahead of time without any problem. So now we're going to come in and we're going to add our salal leaves. That was a really good question because they hold up really, really well. I'm going to add my placement like we did before, add my placement of glue underneath, tucking that in, going to the opposite side, doing the same type of thing. And when you're gluing in your fresh flowers, make sure you seal up those ends. And if you're inserting it into a glued area, it usually will seal up. So here we're just using a little bit of glue on the backs of our salal leaves. And when I poke it into the area, it will seal it up. Eventually, we'll have it all covered without any problem. So I'm going to come back and do what we did before and take our salal and just tuck those in, just like we did with the glittered leaves before. But now we're just adding a fresher element to it. And sometimes when I'm making up the bases like these, I oftentimes will even add do the the silk leaves and then add fresh on top of that too, so I get a combination. Put my little rhinestones a little bit here. Go to our opposite side. And just start covering up some of the mechanics, doing a little basing where we're covering up the base structure and gluing those right into our form. Adding those right into this. So now we have a nice coloring effect again. I'm going to manipulate some of my rhinestones here with my celebration to the center. So when we start adding our flowers, we have those dispersed throughout. So another thing that you can do is then you can come back now and you can add additional leaves to cover up this completely if you wanted to. Totally up to you, totally depending upon your design techniques that you use in your area. And you can very easily do that. So now we'll come back with our dendrobiums. And we're going to glue these into the center. I'm going to add a little bit of glue down in the center of my ribbon. It will help seal up those leaves, but it also gives me that adhesion again from flower to flower. So we're gluing this into the very center. Dendrobiums are a great one to hold up with that colangel. They're again thinking about what we use in Hawaiian leis that hold up really well for us. Gluing this into the center. And inserting these in. Making sure we got a little space in my ribbon and tucking it in. And with the cold glue application, sometimes you have to hold that a little bit to get it to stay where you want it to stay. Now I'm going to take just my little bit of cilantro. And just seal it up with the glue and tuck it right down into that very center. That purple and orange together just gives us a great color palette. Tucking a little bit in, just a little. And that's what I like, is that you don't have to add a lot of different products. You add just a tiny bit just for accents. Tucking it right in. And that ribbon takes it all. I'm going to add just a little bit of leaf just to pull some of that color up. This is just a little pittosporum leaf. But I just want to pull that color from the green collaring that I did with the swell up to that very top. So then we have, let me slide this on here so you can see a little bit better than on my hand. We have this great little, there again, symmetrical design that we've added some great elements to. So think about products differently. You know, you just need little bits and pieces. And Jen, if you want to experiment, try some of the different products that work. You know, if you go look through the cooler, look through your plant section, some hold up better than others. Test it before you do it for a prom flower and make sure it does hold up for you. But you can have some fun things that you can see, that you can use, that we have for us every single day in our stores. I'm going to show you a couple more that we have that are really kind of fun. This is another one that I pre-made. And as you can see, it kind of falls into that color palette of vintage that we see with wedding work today. So here we have our little streamers. But what I've done, here's the bracelet. This happens to be precious beaded flower bracelet. I love this look. I just think it's very sweet and it's very sophisticated looking. We have our Flora Burst Dazzle pin that will be used into the very center. And then, of course, the marquee accents this time in this to create some depth. But let me talk a little bit about the product that we have in this. I've used, and I love using Dusty Miller, but Dusty Miller and corsage work and body flower work doesn't hold up really well because it just doesn't have a great water source. and it just doesn't hold. So this is permanent botanical dusty miller that I like to use because it's about the grade tones that we see in our color palettes today. So we use a little bit of the permanent botanical dusty miller, and be truthful with your customer and tell them, I'm going to use this just because I want this color palette. And then it becomes a keepsake afterwards, so that they're able then to keep that all the way through. So we've done the same thing by starting by placing the dusty miller onto the design disc that's attached, and then doing that coloring effect with the ultramarine. I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. We'll do a little bit more of that. I've added then some of the spider plant just for some textures. And that's what I love about this. You have this soft surface from the dusty miller, and then we go to the ultramarine and then that bling that we see from our Flora Burst Dazzle pin that we've got. The marquees were inserted right into this so that we get that depth. You can see from the side that we want that depth. We want to be able to add some dimension to it because it comes across very flat. And then we just added some great little ribbons. This happens to be a ribbon combination with some pearls. I've added a little bit of ivy just to that very base. And ivy, some of the tricks you can do for ivy to make it hold up a little bit better is, of course, use some type of a leaf shine on that. Also, there's Johnson's Floor Wax. There's a clear acrylic Johnson's Floor Wax, which has been around for years and years and years. And you can dip your ivy into that, just straight, dip it right in and let it dry, and it gives a great sheen. It works well in wedding work. It just makes it hold up better because sometimes ivy has a tendency to fail. And the little trick before that I talked about was using salal leaves that are cut into the shape of ivy if you want to bring that in. But this is kind of that backyard vintage feel with the brooches and that soft color palette tones that we see. Another one that we have, I like that one a lot. I think that one's really pretty, is to bling it on out here with lots of feathers. Here I've got a great bracelet. This is the Bubble Bath flower bracelet in lavender, and I love this particular one. You know, I love the color palettes that we're using with it. So we slide this on, and here, this one is a little bit bigger than what maybe you typically do, but I wanted to show you some different options with this. We've added the flutters, a couple of flutters in this. This is Peacock, is the color name for this particular one. It ties right in with the ribbon that we used in that same kind of teal color. We have the marquee accents also. But if you notice right down into the very center, I like using hydrangea. It's a perfect color palette for our weddings this time of year. But what happens is the same thing as we have with some of our other products. It doesn't hold really well. So I've used permanent botanical hydrangea just tucked right down into that very center. It creates my base. And then all the flowers I add on top of that. And this is there in that softer look that we see. The ribbon, I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about what the ribbon has, what I've done with it. So you can see I've attached it in 3 different places across that very back. And I made 3 different bows. So this gives me a huge source for me to glue into. So if you like lots of ribbon and your customer likes a lot of ribbon, this is a great way then to use that. So then on top of the hydrangea, what we've added then is just the beautiful little filler flower in lavenders, just tucked right in. You could use black flower. You can just use anything that you wanted to with fresh flowers just to create that little accent. But it's this color palette that we're seeing a lot with our trends. It's those purples and blues and greens that are all blended together. A little bit of salal leaves tucked right in again. You can use fresh or you can use permanent botanicals, whichever you want to do. It doesn't matter. And, of course, it's that sparkle from the marquee accents that goes in there that helps then just bring your eye right down into the focal area. So creating your form, looking at your focal area, what's going to draw your eye into that focal area. And here we have that little sparkle that does that on this particular one. And one more to show you, and then we'll go on to our boutonnieres. This happens to be the Sophisticated Lady bracelet. Love this look. Gold is a very popular color palette that we're seeing. Let me attach this to my little holder here so you can see. Succulents are another really popular item that we're seeing in corsage work and wedding work right now. We've added to this in particular, we have the lacy leaves in gold that we've added into it. And these happen to be permanent botanical succulents. If you use real succulents, and you can incorporate, I would incorporate both if you're going to use that, just because they're really, really heavy. So you have to be really kind of cautious, but I just used some petals, tucking them in a little bit, a string of pearl, just to give it some freshness. There again, adding the kalanchoe and the little tiny kalanchoe, or little tiny succulents tucked right in. Doesn't have to have a bow. You can sophisticate it up and then create this asymmetrical look, because what we've done before was everything was so symmetrical. Now we've taken this, we cut this in half, it's different on both sides. We have that asymmetrical format that cascades down the side of the wrist so that we give that format all the way through. But I like adding that gold to that kind of coarse feeling that we have with the succulents, that lace and that coarseness, that great contrast of materials, which is really, really kind of fun. So I like that one too. All right. So now we're going to go over to our boutonniere that we're going to create. I'm going to take this down just a little bit so we can see. And here's the boutonniere that we're going to make. And this little boutonniere, very simple, it's going to match the corsage that we created before. And let me show you the components that are in this. Now, I don't like generally calling them boutonnieres. I like calling them lapel art, because I think that this is something that I would wear more so than what just for guys. And I think because I don't want to wear that big honking corsage, I would just wear something that's tastefully done, that's very artful. And that gives me just some opportunities to have something really fun. So we're going to show you how to make this and with some products that we have. So the first thing that we're using is what's called an easy pin. And I like the easy pin just because it's one of those pins. It's a dual pin. It sticks through some really durable materials. Now, if you have a really high-grade tuxedo, you have to be cautious. Make sure it'll go through that. Or provide a pin also just in case, because sometimes you run into some fabrics that just will not let you pin through it or use a magnet on. So just make sure you know what you're dealing with. And that's one of those questions that you need to ask when they come in to purchase their Prom products. So we have our little easy pin that we're going to use. I have another flutters in the black. I have 4 of the glittered leaves that we're going to use. And then our flower components, again, are our single bud of a rose and some wax flower that we're going to use as our filler flower. So we're going to start with this first, and I'm just going to trim this down, our little easy pin, because it gives you the ability that you can add anything to this. I'm going to trim it down because I don't need it quite that long. And what I like about this is that it's got this little label on it, and that little label is porous, so you could glue right to that. We don't have to worry about adding anything else to this because it'll stick right to that spot. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue there. And we're going to use our leaves to start with. I'm going to trim these down. And a boutonniere, you can make it any size that you want to. So I'm going to dip this into my glue, and I'm going to come back and create my form. So there again, this is it's fairly symmetrical when we're making this. Following our same line movements, and we're just going to glue these right to that, the leaves being extremely porous. Adding those right in. Or sometimes you have to hold it just a little bit, but then once it's tacky, on the other side. And I'm going to trim this down, add a little bit of glue. And I'm going to have this come right underneath those. And this is coming down the length. And just curl them up. And then we want to make sure that these are going to stay put. Just really get in there a little bit. And let's add a little bit of glue to that very center. Again, creating a lapel art means anybody can wear this, and that's what's really fun, is you could sell this as a corsage if you wanted to, a shoulder corsage. And I like putting sales staff in them, making them up in permanent botanicals, doing what you want, whatever you want, just to make that art form come back. I've cut that rose all the way down. I'm going to seal it up, and that's the other important thing to do, is make sure you seal that up so that it makes it hold up and last longer. We're just going to tuck that right down into that very center. So that becomes our focal area. Just hold it there for a little bit, making sure it stays put. We're going to come across with our other two pieces of feathers. I'm just going to dip them in and have them carry them across to the other side, making sure we have those balances. And tucking those in. So the glue from the rose is sticking to the leaves are sticking to the paper that is attached to that. Now we're going to come back with our little filler flower and just tuck these in. Oh, I forgot my little rhinestones here. Let's tuck you in while I got you. I have to bring this impact of sparkle to the opposite side. So we're going to use our little celebrations accents, and we're going to come across to the opposite side. So make sure you balance that nice and low. Let me pick this up and kind of manipulate it. Manipulate those so that it works for you. So now we've carried that bling across. We've carried the feathers across. We have our balance done with our foliage leaves. And muted a wax flower all the way around. Just to give us some depth, a little color impact, and just some softness of textures that we can add to this. Carry that all the way through, get rid of my glue. Let me get a little bit more wax flower here. Trim it down a little bit. Take you to the opposite side. And one more. Just keep remembering that you have to do repetition. Carry it from one side to the other, making sure that you've got the same product added in. Carry it all the way across. You're doing textural balance, physical balance, visual balance, and color balance just by placing it from here to here. So you can see with our boutonniere that we can add that to any lapel and it'll look great. You can shorten those feathers down if you wanted to. You do lots of different things with those. So let me make another little boutonniere for you really quick. Very simple. We've got another little single rose that we're going to use. But then I have the cowl boutonniere. And this is what's great. This is a magnetic holder from Fitz, which I just really love because it makes it so fast and so easy to use. It has a very strong magnet to it. So all you have to do is just add to this. So we're going to take our rose. We're going to glue this down into the inside. So add onto my little tray here. And we're going to tuck him in. And just add some detail. He might be a little too big, maybe not. So let's add you in a little bit of glue. You can also add a little bit of U-glue into that if you wanted to, and that would help hold that into place. But this happens to be leaves that I cut apart off of a sterling rose leaf. There again, think about this in different ways of how you can manipulate products and make them work for you. I'm going to carry this around to the opposite side. Tuck that right in, as you can see. Got a couple little ones that we're just going to tuck in here. Hold you into place. And I'm just going to go to the back side and tuck one in. I'm gluing directly to the rose, but do you see how fast and easy that is? And what a glamorous look that is. Instead of just a wiring and taping, it gives you a great keepsake holder. Plus, it's magnetic. You don't have to worry about how it's going to attach because that's a very strong magnet. But it's very simple and fast. And there again, it also becomes a great little keepsake. So boutonnieres don't have to be a struggle. They can be something that's really simple and easy to do, and it gives you that great look. Another boutonniere that I'd like to show you is there again, we're going to the lapel art part of this. So I have another easy pin that is on the back that you can see that I've added. Here we have a foliage leaf that's added to this. But I've taken the River of Diamonds, and this is River of Diamonds, and it comes in many different colors and many different sizes. And what I've done to start with this is that I made little slits with just a sharp pair of scissors coming all the way down, and I've threaded bear grass up through that and done the same thing next to it. So I have two that are just woven through. So it gives me that ability then that I can create a dimension with that by adding another element into it. Now, also adding to it a little bit of flutters. This happens to be the yellow. It kind of ties right in with what we have with the yellow part of our foliage leaf that we have tucked in. Dimension is added by placing one on top and then one underneath so that we have that visual dimension. We've also used in this is an acrylic chain pieces. This is called Flower Power. And I love these little things. And then there's a lot of great little inexpensive accents that you can add by using these acrylic chains and cutting them apart and using them for just some decorative elements. You'll see that in some different materials that we'll be using. But it's really kind of fun. I've added the flutters, and in the center of the flutters, I've used the rhinestones, and that kind of gives me some dimension because this is very, very flat. So adding those rhinestones and pulling them out gives me that depth. Also, by adding the hypericum berries to the top, and they're just glued right down to that easy pin, down to the layer of River of Diamonds and to the lily grass or the bear grass that's tucked right in. So it's a great way to get just a little bit of bling and some fun things that you can create just with the boutonniere. Another boutonniere that we have, and I love this. This happens to be the Florentine. I love this particular look. But it's got that great little metal finish. It's got the metallic magnet that goes to the back. But here again, we've created just a great look. This could be a pocket square, or it could be a lapel art that we've created with this. And here I've taken the alstroemeria part and used the striped section of the alstroemeria and laid those across. What I did first of all is I put a little bit of U-glue right along this edge. So it gives me something to stick to. Because there again, you can't attach directly to metal. It's helpful if you have something else that's going to attach to. You could use strapping tape. You can use many different things. But I've glued right to that U-glue because it sticks right to that metal and it won't let go. And then I've taken the little succulents and glued those right down to our very base. And because that was very flat, I had to add another element of dimension with this. So again, taking the lily or the bear grass, rolling it in, tucking it in, and pulling it down, and then attaching it inside of the succulent with a little dot of glue. Same thing. Adds a whole lot of dimension to that. And that's what we want. This space, which is an element design, is vital in making sure that they don't come across as being so flat. We want to make sure that we've got that dimension all the way through. It gives us a great look. I love this look with this particular Florentine boutonniere. This can be manipulated and bent and do all kinds of things with it. So you've got that option to create some fun and interesting lapel art. It's not the same as what everybody else is doing, and that's one of the things you want to do. You know, it may not catch on right away, but show some different things. Give them the options of things that this is not your typical place for all of the same thing that everybody else is selling. Show them different things. Show them that you're the creative artist and that you have that option. Our last boutonniere that I have to show you is a boutonniere holder, another one that is called Rocket. And I love this, Rocket, R-O-C-K, it. And I love it because there again, it's also magnetic. And it's just a fast and easy way to create a great design that you can have some fun with. We've also used the marquee accent sprays in this. And this I've used the 6 stems that I've placed those in first of all. This has a little bit of a rubber center to it. So you can glue that right down into that very center by using the marquee, just taking the whole bunch, adding them, manipulating them around, adding the foliage leaf and just gluing that into the very base, and then coming back with our pom-pom. Very simple product, but you know it holds up really, really well. But it also gives us that color impact that we want. So it pulls that yellow in, and then I've added bear grass again, gluing it to the back, pulling it around to the top, and in the back of this I have a little strip of U-glue that I've added to this, that I've taken and just covered it by wrapping that bear grass right around that, so it takes the stickiness away. It solves that whole thing, and then that's where it ends up, is attached. Let me turn it around all the way so you can see. It's attached to that U-glue right there, so that it makes it stay in place for us. Now, if you wanted to, you could add additional security by using a little bit of decorative wire and go around that if you want to. But what I love about this is the simplicity of it. But boy, it drives a great look. We've got that repetition of form from the marquee to the conical shape that we have from the holder itself, that Rocket boutonniere holder. And it's just really kind of fun. So we could do some great things with that. All right, that's our boutonnieres. And the same techniques apply for whether you're doing it from one end to the other. It really doesn't matter. We have another one that I wanted to show. And this is using, right there. This is using our disc clip. And I love these because you can attach these to just about it. And here I have it attached to a shoe. But what it does is it has a clip on it. And it gives me that availability then to attach this to a purse. I can attach it to the front of a dress. You know, sometimes we have that neckline that you really can't pin anything to, so you can attach it, just clip it over to the dress, a strap, anything on that order. It makes a great little accent, accessory that we're going to create. So I'm going to show you just really quickly how to make this particular one using the same products that we've used all day long. So now she has an accessory for her shoe. She's got a wristlet, and we have a matching boutonniere. So the same products that we've used before. We have a flutters, we have ultramarina, we have our leaves, our glittered leaves. And here I'm going to use a little bit of a U-glue strip and some of our celebration sprays. So I'm going to take this little clip. I'm going to leave that on there. I'm not going to need a piece quite so big. One of the tricks for glue, if you're cutting U-glue, if you wet your scissors first and then cut, it won't stick to your scissors. Because sometimes if you do a lot of cutting, what happens is your scissors get really sticky. So this is one way to prevent that. So I'm just going to add some U-glue to this. And it sticks great. Know which way your clip opens up, so it opens up this direction. Uh-oh, I got it attached to my finger. We're in trouble. There we go. Okay. Same as before, I'm going to use my leaves, cut them down. I'm going to use a little bit of glue. So we're going to put a little bit of glue onto our U-glue. No problem. It'll make sure it's never going to come off of there. And I'm just going to put this in a triangular form all the way around. use fresh leaves. You can use whatever leaves you want to. Doesn't matter. And here I'm going to use my celebration sprays. I'm going to put a little bit more glue into that center. We're going to need that anyway. Just tuck it in because I'm going to add my little celebration sprays. And I'm just going to tuck those in. Just slide it in. We've got our U-glue right there. No problem. It's going to stay put. We're not going to lose it. Bring that down a little bit. Look at that in there. All right. Then we're going to come back with our Alstroemeria, and I'm going to tear these apart. And I like using Alstroemeria because I love the delicacy of the petals that they have, and I love that stripe. So we're just going to take these apart. And get these ready to set up to use. Now I am getting ready for those to come. But let's go ahead and add our flutters in here, just because it gives us the opportunity to not worry about damaging those leaves, those petals when we put them in. So I'm going to take out the longer ones. Carry those across to the other side. And this is going to come down over, so we'll tuck it this direction. Put my little rhinestones so they can see them. Put my flutters, the pieces that we cut off, to the opposite side, wherever you want to put them. So I'm going to decorate a shoe with this, or we could put it on as a boutonniere. Even too, it would clasp onto a pocket. If you wanted it to be that way. And then we're going to take our petals. And let me just break these down a little bit. And we're going to do a composite flower with our petals. And then a little bit shorter. You can cut them if you want to. And I'm going to put a little more glue in the very center. And glue. So we're going to start on one side and just to create a composite. A little bit of glue. Use the color of the stripes of the leaves to create a great look. Do one more here, and then we'll come back with our striped ones. And just create a great little row of flowers. Making sure we got enough glue in the very center, and we will. Take that in. Gives us some detail and texture. Gives us a visual texture, which is really fun. Right in. Let me add this last one just because I want to use it. And tucking it right into that very center, what happens is that we get a great dimension. So you can add that to it. You can take these and take them out and put them into the center if you want. I'm going to use a little bit of a Hypericum berry, just tucked right into the very center. You can use a little bit of wax flower, like what we did on this one. Here we have the little rhinestones tucked in. There's lots of different ways that you can create a composite. It's just making an imaginary flower. Just tuck that right into the very center. And then you clip this right onto another shoe. And it'll be completely dry, but let me put this on, and you can see some of the things that you can do with them just to create a different look. Here we've got our shoes that are done. They clip right on. They're really comfortable to wear. My daughter has worn these very often. She just went to prom. So it's really kind of fun to decorate the shoes with. Some of the other things that you can do is here's another shoe that has another clip on it. This is combining those succulents again, where we've taken the succulents, some pittosporum, tucked it in using the cilantro, a little bit of depth. Look at the depth that's on this. It's really kind of fun that you can create. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a shoe. Wherever you want to place this, that's what's really fun, is being able to add anything that you want to it. And it's just gluing right to that clip, that personality clip that we have. Here's one more that I love. Take another shoe here. And this happens to be done on the personality clip. It's got some great, just beautiful leaves. It's got the sheep leaves from Fitz, adding that gold. Their shoe has a little bit of gold trim to it. So we can add that gold right to that two dendrobium orchids tucked in. And there, this is another composite. It's taking apart the dendrobium and using the outside petals and then adding a whole one into the center. But it's just very simple and easy and things that you can do. Do them in permanent botanicals so they have something that they can keep. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of that to have. Another look that you can do is that same type of application only onto a hair clip. So this is a hair comb that you can use. And we've just done the same type of thing where I've just glued it right to that design disc that's on there. We've added the hot pink flutters, a little bit of misty blue tucked in, an alstroemeria, and then just did a little layering technique over the top just to cover our base structure with that. And this is something then that you can put right into your hair. So all the techniques that we've used are the same thing that we used all the way around, whether it's done for the shoe decoration, whether it's a boutonniere, whether it's for your hair, whatever that application, you follow the same rules and they always apply. Let me put together just one more for you. We have just a few more minutes, so I just wanted to show you some different things that you could do. Because I love these hair clips and I love all the personality clips. And we have our design comb that we're going to add. I'm going to add a few things. I've got, this is a Monarch Care's Kiss pin, which is really fun. Another orchid that we're going to use. Here I've taken River of Diamonds, and I've shredded it. So we've got this piece of River of Diamonds, just like so. And attach that right to the very top. And you could do this both-sided. If you wanted to have clean mechanics on the back, you can add another one to the back side of this just to finish it off. So we're going to take our River of Diamonds and just lay it across the top. So there we have this already set to put onto someone's hair, just adding some detail. This could be used for a boutonniere, it could be used for a wristlet, that same application, which is really, really kind of fun. You can do some fun things with. So I'm going to take and we're going to add our little orchid to this. And because I have that U-glue on the back side, I'm able just to attach right to that. So we're just going to glue our orchid right to that. I've got one of my monarchs already cut off, and I'm just going to glue him in. And that little pin is going to go right down into our design disc that we have. It's going to hold that right in place. So very quickly and easily, we created just a little look for your hair that gives it a little bit of shimmer. You can add all different types of things to the ends. If you want to put hypericum berries, you can add foliage leaves to this. You can do all kinds of things, which are really, really kind of fun. So let's look at all the hair pieces again. We have this one, along with our hair piece. We turn around so you can see the back side of it just a little bit better. This is really fun that you can do. So think about some different things in selling to the gals that come in for prom, because you want to make sure you give them other options. Don't let them walk out with just the wristlet and the boutonniere. Add another item. Make sure they buy a necklace or they'll buy a hair piece, or you can sell something that go onto their shoes. Give them many different options. And then all of our little shoe pieces that we've done. As you can see, it gives us some great looks. So many different options, and I would display this, show them all the different places you can put this. Make sure that you've got some great shoes and some great ideas, and follow the trends. Get some younger kids that will help you do this. Make sure those millenniums come into your store. Make sure that you do that. And then all of our little boutonnieres that we showed before. It's really fun to see them all together in some different choices. Makeup samples so that they can see all the different things that we've done. So think about all the different ideas and the way that you can display them into your store, and then have them have a choice. They can see what great artwork that you can create. And I love doing personal flowers like this. And then, of course, all of our little corsages, our wristlets that we made from the use of succulents, which I love this one, to our nostalgia with the lace. Lace is very popular. We see lots of lace when it comes to corsages and wedding work. And then our beautiful one with the peacock flutters tucked in. And then another room here, and then our other purple and decorations that you can do. So you have so many different options of different things that gives you, oh my gosh, you can do so much. And that's what I just love about working with this artistry, is that the flowers are such a beautiful medium that we do such great artwork with. And you can do that with everything that you do. So I hope you enjoyed today. I want you to remember that Fitz is the leading distributor of prom products and wedding accessories. So check with your local wholesaler for all the latest and greatest Fitz products to sell to your millenniums. Make sure you get them into your store. For more Fitz webinars, please go to webinars@creationsbyfitz.com. I hope you enjoyed today. If you have any more questions, please send them in quickly so I'm able to answer them for you. I'd be happy to help you in any way that I can. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I love doing this. You know, working with flowers is probably the best thing. So I like to share that with you, and I hope that you take that inspiration and go on and do some fun things with your prom work. So thank you for being here today.